I'm John Crager. That's my business in Chicago. J. Crager Alternatives for your hair. Oh, okay. Hey, I'm all over that. I'm good with that. I got no problem. Because I'm such a refined and that can be interesting. But on most of when I first got started in the business, one of the things that I basically put on brochures was hair loss, now what? This weekend that we're going through, this is kind of what we're all most of us are here for, because it's like, okay, we're going to be dealing with hair loss, and now what do we do? And that's kind of, the options are across the board. I believe that people, all of us in this room, are not necessarily made for this work. There's going to be people here that they're going to get into it a little bit, they're going to be like going, whoa, and that's okay. I would like everybody to at least have baseline information, because that's what we need to have when a client comes and sits in a chair. And if that information is just knowing somebody that's in the business that you can refer them over to, don't be afraid to lose a client, because your best advantage in this industry, in this part of the industry that we are now in, is what we can do to help the people that are sitting in the chair that have no clue what's going on. That's kind of so the now what part is hopefully some of the stuff that I can give you today, some of the little bit of a direction that might help that. And again, any questions you have, I am very open to share information, because that's one of the things we need. And that's amazing. That's the best part of it. And again, being part of the solution is what we're kind of shooting for. So I love this thing. So my goal is, again, we want to make a difference. How do we do that? We do that with information. We do that with having the knowledge that people can understand that what we're doing is the best for them. And again, with so many different variables in this business, do you want to work with wigs and hair pieces? Do you want to, go into the medical market? Go into just the natural aspect of just regular hair loss? Are you wanting to do working with human hair, working with synthetic hair? You want to do systems? You want to do topicals? You want to do, if you just want to do like beanie caps and scarves, that's cool. I mean, that's all right. You can do one of these things, or you can do everything. It depends on what you believe and what you feel you can do. And if you're going to do all of it, it can be a little taxing, a little interesting, but the reward is off the chart, which is great. So for me, that's my goal, is to get enough information out so that I can help to start make a difference. I am currently in Chicago going to be doing classes in 5 different beauty schools. Some classes I'm doing 3 classes in a month or whatever, just so I can basically start out at the base level of hairdressers when they're in beauty school. When I was in beauty school, we were still cutting hair with rocks. But but today they need the information. And when I was going through school, we had one chapter on the disorders of the skin, the scalp, the hair, and the nails. We went through it in a week. We took our test, and we never opened that chapter again, because it wasn't a big deal. And it wasn't until I was in the business close to 20 years before I saw my first sign of alopecia. And I was like, and it was a little spot about this big in the back of one of my clients' head. I didn't say anything to her because, well, the deal is she had, again, a boatload of hair. And I kind of decided not to say anything, because she was one that would fixate on it. Next haircut, she comes back, she goes, do you know I have a spot in the back of my head? And my sister told me when I got out of the pool. And I'm like going, Reg, why didn't you tell me? I'm like, because of that. Because stress can bring on a larger outbreak or a bigger issue. So I try not, so I was like, and it went away, and it was fine. And it wasn't until really I got into the hair loss business itself that I started seeing more and more Women were becoming younger, and as far as diagnosis for chemotherapy. But the reason for that is because the diagnostic techniques have gotten so much better. They are now finding chemotherapy, now finding cancer in microscopic levels, where before there had to be a mass. And now they're finding, like I say, chemotherapy in microscopic levels. So they're hitting it, especially with younger women, they're hitting it harder, they're hitting it faster, they're hitting it the way it should be because they are younger. And they hope at that point they can get rid of it and it's done and they never have to worry about it again. And that's a lot of times what happens. It's still tough no matter how you look at it, but that's why, again, I believe we're seeing a rise in cancer because of diagnostic techniques. But let's face it, and again, we can talk about diet, we can talk about exercise, we can talk about the products that are in our foods. And I talk to my clients all the time when they're sitting in the chair, and I'm like, this is going to help you, like I was talking about earlier. The 3 things that they really need to do when they're starting treatment: they need to drink more water, they need to get exercise, and they need to get proper rest. And eat the right foods. So that's actually the 4th thing. Yes. Let's face it, nobody drinks enough water. So whatever they can add to whatever they are not doing now is a plus, because you're supposed to drink, I think, 8 glasses of water a day, something like that. None of us do. I mean, anybody here in this room drinks 8 glasses of water a day? All right, fine. Okay, so the bulk of us don't, but fine, be that way. But again, that's one of the things that we try to get across to people about doing these things, and these things will help. But also, when someone first comes in and they start talking about hair loss, just in general, they say, what can I do? What's going on with my hair? What's happening? It's starting to thin. I said, 3 things you need to do. You need to drink more water, you need to exercise, you need to eat the right foods. You start that. I mean, you just do that, and everything in your body gets better. It just will. And once you start getting rid of the additional toxins, you start getting rid of all of the additional impurities, you start getting rid of all the stuff that's in our foods, whether it's GMOs or whatever is it, once that stuff's out of your system, you will feel better. You just will. And like we've been hearing earlier, there is no magic pill, there is no magic bullet. You see diets and you see all these different exercise videos and this and that. No. Start simple, keep it simple. Don't overdo it. Don't sit there and try to do too much at once. That's why everybody sees health club memberships skyrocket the day after New Year's, or everybody's I'm gonna go work out and I'm gonna be, and then 2 weeks later nobody's at the gym again. It's like, great. But again, the market with chemotherapy and everything is wide open because there's not enough of us doing it. I got into this because I not only felt there was a need, there was definitely a need. I got my first introduction into chemotherapy or wigs for women going through chemotherapy when I rented a space in a salon that was doing this work. I felt that it could be done differently. It could be done, and they said, well, if you think you could do it better, go do it yourself. I said, okay. So I went out and I started Crager Alternatives for Your Hair. And I do things a little differently. My consultations can sometimes be up to 2 hours. Well, that's because I try to cover everything that they need when they're sitting in the chair. It's not just about, you want to write this down, is generally, and these are general rules, that when someone is starting treatment, their hair will start to release in around 15 to 21 days after their first treatment. Now again, obviously, treatments are different. People are going to vary. There's going to be different highs and lows, and there may be differences with it. But generally, that's a good rule of thumb. Drinking water is a good rule of thumb. These are all little things that we need to start talking the same language. We need to start giving people the correct information, and information that's not exaggerated or brought down too little. You got to give them at least enough there. And I started again the journey to get into this. Yes. I mean, see, I say release instead of, fall out or lose hair. That's my term. So it's like when I tell someone your hair is going to start to release, it's gentler. It's just verbiage that, again, that's one that I like to use. Pretty much, there is a, again, I've got some clients that they're going through treatment, and again, usually clients that have a lot more hair all their hairs will not release. I just call those the defiant ones, and it just, I mean, it can, most cases, depending on the chemotherapy, depending on the treatment, depending on your body, depending on your own health, depending on, these are all things that qualify and give you direction on how to work with it. Because again, everybody is different. I mean, I've had clients where I've ordered a wig for them, and 6 months later they still hadn't called me, and I kind of get nervous because again, this is another part of this business that we have to think about. We have a much higher mortality rate. We're going to have clients that we lose, and I hate when I do this. Such a willy-nilly, stop it. But I know, and the thing is I've had the biggest compliment, I guess, is when the husbands come back to me and they like, thank you. You made her look great. Everybody loved the wig. You treated her so well. We knew you were going to do what you said you were going to do, and you did that. And I've had men, just lose it in front of me, and I lose it too because you make a connection with these people. You want to do everything you can to help them. You want to guide them to the best way possible, and you don't. And I've seen people that you think are at death's door and they're fine, and you've got people who walk in the door that are skipping and dancing, and you lose them. And there's no rhyme or reason. You can't. It just is. But that's part of the business. That when I talk to people, and I've had people say, John, I want to work with you. Okay, cool. And I sit down and say, so we go through the process, and then we go to shave down their head, and they're like, I'm like, no, you can't do that. When you're shaving their head down, you can't go there. They can. I've had women wail in the salon because it's what's happening, and and a lot of times, they sometimes don't necessarily think about their disease until their hair starts to release. When that starts to happen, it becomes real. And that's the part where, that's when I get the call. John, it's like my hair's starting to come out, it's starting to release. Now I also am able to tell them when your hair starts to release, you're going to it's going to be a diffused hair loss. Write that down, diffused hair loss, because it's something that you can tell them that calms them. And I tell them that during the consultation. I said, what you're going to basically have is what I call the oh shit moment, where you will sit there and you will go through your hair and you'll go, oh shit. And that's because there's going to be, we know how much hair we lose every day. Okay, you go through it, you get your brush, and you're picking it out, whatever, you know how much there is. This is more. And I tell people it's going to be a diffused loss. So you're going to potentially have hair loss kind of all over, where it's not going to necessarily, on the onset, be in patches. I said that happens later on. Now, depending on the amount of hair, and depending on how quickly it's diffusing out, I tell people you generally have a few days, so don't panic when that first happens. So, but if you do panic and you do need me, I'm there for you. So again, like I said, I've come in on Sundays, I've come in on Mondays, I get there early, I stay late, whatever the case might be, because it's not about me. I've got into this business because I'm supposed to care for them. I'm supposed to give them more than what my hours are on my door. If I've got people that are calling me up and I'm on my day off and I'm near the salon or I'm not like 70 miles away, and they say, can I come in today? I will do everything I can to get to them because they need me now. Do they need me now? They think they do, and that's all that matters. And that's part of this business. That's part of it. Now, people, there's different, I don't care what anybody else says, this is me. Okay, so, and everybody will have their own qualifiers. Some people don't live that close to their salons, or they might not be able to, or whatever. And, you know, but I know if you get into the business and that happens, you'll be there. That's kind of, if that's the direction you want to take. But this is where, you know, we go through all this. And I've had a lot of times where I've done a lot of stuff with a lot of people. And this is what it is. But what we're now into is what I call the new non-fatal epidemic. Okay, because everybody in this room, you don't have to raise your hands, everybody in this room knows someone who is going through some form of hair loss. Okay, if anybody doesn't know somebody who's going through hair loss, raise your hand. That's what I thought. So, if everybody knows somebody that's going through whatever, it's an epidemic. Okay, we don't have a choice. We can't not look at this. We do need to have more people involved in this business. We need to have the people that can sit there and give the correct information. We need to be able to stand there with these people and let them know they're going to be okay to the best of our ability. There's some things we can't do, and that's okay too. But as long as you're upfront and honest with these people in the beginning, and they know what's going on, and they look at you and go, I got it. Good. That's what you need. You got to make sure that they understand that. And also when you got to remember, when they're starting treatment or they're coming into you for the first time, they have got so much on their plate that they don't, you know, they may not hear everything that is going on. So I tell a lot of my clients when they're coming in for a consultation, bring a friend, bring your husband, bring somebody with you, because those people have a little clearer mind. They don't have as much minutia going on in their head, and they can ask the questions. You know, so how long is it going to be before my hair releases? What's my hair going to be like when it comes back? What can I do throughout my treatment to make my hair better so when it happens? And again, people aren't supposed to promote or whatever, but this is what I use, and I'm going to tell you what I use. I got into the Head First program, which is a trichology product line. Okay, and it's great to, if you're going to move into the trichology realm, that is the easiest way of doing it, as far as I go, because they give you a system to work with, they give you advantages to look at, and they also, one of the things, I mean, this wasn't the only thing, but they have what they call a well-being kit that a client uses from the time they start treatment all the way through their treatment. So what that does, again, we're talking about scalp health. That's a big thing we're looking at here. The better you can make the scalp, and that's just with regular hair growth. That's what trichology is about. If you treat the scalp well and you nourish it correctly, you will get better hair. You will have stronger hair. You will have hair that will react better to the services that you're giving it. When I first got the product line in, I was using it with my wife, and I color my wife's hair, and she's got a prominence of gray towards the front. She has a hair color very similar to Karen's, actually. So I mean, and getting that color right, especially when there's gray hair, to get that kind of vibrance is tough. Okay, and I was at the point I was using 40 volume developer on her hair to break through to the gray, to open up the cuticle enough, to deposit enough color. Red is there's a larger color molecule, blah, 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 blah. But she started using the product. They have treatments that you can do. One is a residue on scalp treatment, which helps get rid of all the residue and everything off the hair from bad products that we've been using. After I did that and she's used the product, I was able to literally, and I dropped her developer down to a 20 volume, and we get phenomenal coverage and amazing color that holds, because the product line helps with that. It doesn't, it's a organic and essential oil based product. So there's nothing unnatural about it. So we're working with the best product possible. I believe that will help our clients get the best result possible when it comes to not only the chemical services, but also helping in regard to what the product will do for the hair itself, and gets you into a trichology base where you're actually doing scope and you're actually looking at the scalp, and you can actually sit there and say, if this is what you have, here's what you can use, and they have a program that goes with it, and yada, yada, yada. And it's really, and I gotta tell you, if you're in the business, and that was why I went into it in this regard, as soon as I was able to bring it back to my salon, most of my clients are hair loss clients, whether they're in for alopecia, whether they're just having thinning, whether they're just going chemical services, that their hair's been beaten up. As soon as I sat there and said, here's a product line that I'm able to use that does this, 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 and this, they're like, do you have the shampoo, the conditioner, and yeah, great, I want it. And the price point is good. So that's neither here nor there. So that's one of the things that I like to use. Head First is the program. You can find them with Hair Visions. And also, if you're going to get into this business, you're going to need a good wig provider. I'm a trichology technician. Thank you. So to be a full trichologist, again, and that was the other reason, to be a full trichologist can be up to a 2-year process. Okay, like with everything else, I want the quickest, easiest way of getting from point A to point B. I hate going around the block to go next door. Call me crazy, you know. So I was able to get into this venue because I have enough knowledge of 35 years in this business that I understand the concepts. I understand hair. I understand the scalp. I understand what we do to hair, what we do to the scalp, how it affects the hair, how it affects the growth, how it affects everything that we do with what we're trying to help people with. So will I eventually become a trichologist? Yes, that's one of my goals. But I'm also looking to be a wig master, which is a class offered by DePaul University. So you can have a certification from DePaul, which is like, you know, Stanford, you know, as far as in Chicago goes, one of the best schools in the country. And they have, through their drama department, they have a wig master's program. So it shows you from start to finish where wigs started, how they're made, what you can do to them, how they will be, you know, what you can do with them, how to ventilate. Oh, God, shoot me in the face. Yeah, it's one thing. If you don't know what ventilating is where you take hair and you actually put hair into a wig. And you put them in one hair at a time. And you double knot it at the base. And I wanted to shoot myself in the face when I was trying to do it because I couldn't stand it. And so I now have someone who ventilates for me. Okay, just here. You add hair. She wants blonde highlights over here on this and that. You do that. Okay, John, thank you very much. I don't want to deal with that. But so it gives you all of the qualifiers that you would need if you want to be a wig master. Before I even found out about the class, before I found out about that, I took their first class. But again, like I said yesterday, I was at a Hair Visions conference, and one of the people that was doing presenting was working with a synthetic wig and steaming it. And I said, so do you steam hair when it's on the person's head? And like the whole room turned around and looked at me like, what are you, an idiot? I'm like, yes, I am. I am an idiot. I have no idea. Yes, Karen. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm a basic, you know, I'm a De La Salle graduate from high school. That was as far as I went. I mean, I was not a big fan of school. Yeah, so you can go, you just go. It's offered in the spring every year. And the course is, if you did all 4 to become a wig master, it's an entire month. And it's a week for the first part of the class. Then, you know, there's, you know, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. And at the end, for you to complete the course, you have to make a wig. one of the guys, one of the gentlemen who teaches the course, worked, and I think still does work for the Civic Opera House in Chicago. And so he makes wigs regularly. For him to make a wig from scratch, ventilating front to back, side to side, the whole routine, takes him a minimum of 40 hours. And he does it. And I mean, when he's ventilating like, and I'm like going, really? You know, I had to ventilate a mustache, took me 2 days. Yeah, it was just brutal, you know. Then I burned it, but neither here nor there. But I looked like I was a news anchor when I was wearing it. You know, so that's the kind of stuff where, you know, you can do the type of education, you can get really whatever you need in whatever direction you want to go to. So if you want to be a real, you know, if you want to do wigs and do them well, you know, you can, all the different companies that are selling wigs have classes on how to cut wigs, how to do systems, and again, these are all the different avenues that people will go through. Now, there's some women who will lose all their hair and never get it back because they're sometimes have to do radiation on the head. And radiation on the head, you're destroying a follicle that is never coming back, no matter what you do to it. So there's women at that point that wear wigs full time. They sometimes wear systems so that they can have them. They don't want to, you know, take the wig off at night. They don't want people to, you know, husbands, boyfriends, whatever, to see what's going on. And again, there's pros and cons to systems, you know, as there's pros and cons to wigs, and there's pros and cons to hair pieces and how hair pieces are clipped on or put on or sewn in, or yes. Sure. Oh yeah, that's, I mean, a lot of it can advance any form of female pattern natural hair loss that someone can genetically have. So it may pump up that cycle, so it may cause it to happen sooner because of the stress that was put on from the drugs and how the body had to react to it. So unfortunately, yes. And at that point, there are different variations of top pieces, or again, integration pieces, and there's all these different avenues to look at. And I tell people, as energized as we are after this weekend, I want to say, take your time, think about it. You know, don't go running in there, buy, you know, $10,000 in wigs. Don't sit there and get into, you know, because again, there's a lot of people like, I mean, when I get energized about something, I want to dive in big time, you know, and you gotta think about it. You gotta, you know, put your foot in the, you know, dip your foot in the water a little bit. You gotta have that consultation when you're talking to people and seeing what's going on. We are the hair specialists. We go to school to be hair specialists. That's what our job is. And we have issues with people not necessarily coming to us initially with their hair loss issues. They may sit there and they may feel that they're having an issue with that. They may know that, I mean, people know that I'm a hair loss specialist, but they won't say anything, and they'll go to a dermatologist first and then come back and see me. Or people have done dermatology and they've done all the different things, and again, and that works, you know, in many cases. But in many cases, the dermatologist is like going, I kind of, you know, there's not much I can do, because some hair loss can be topical because of dandruff, or because of excessive oil, or because of, you know, all these different things. So, you know, we have to go, and if we're the specialists in hair, we've got to kind of change things a little bit. We've got to let these people know that this is what we know how to do, you know. And the information, like I'm talking about, we have to be talking the same language. We all have to be on the same page. We all have to be willing to share information. That's not how this business works today. You've got people that they do their business. They don't want to give away a thing, you know. And that's, again, it's the same thing like owning a salon. You don't want to, you know, where's the nearest salon from here? Who can I buy this product from? I don't know. Yes, you do. You know exactly who it is. You know who they are. You know what they sell. You know what time they're open. You know who works there. You know their names. You know everything. But oh, I don't know. You know. And again, it's part of. I mean, we're pretty much all self-employed. We're all making sure that we have to. I mean, this is our livelihood. But I also believe that if you're good at what you do, and you're honorable in what you do, and you provide what you say you're going to provide, and you do it with integrity, everybody's not going to like me. I find that hard to believe, but you know, that's kind of how it is. Sure. Why? Yeah. I mean, your body is going to start to produce, because of the sebaceous gland, whatever type of stress that you might be going through. And it could be just stress from work. It could be stress from, you know, whatever. You know, there's going to be, oops, oh, don't do that. Stop it. Please come back. So those stresses, oh, there we are, good. Okay, so those stresses, I mean, will produce more oil from the sebaceous gland. As we get older, it starts to do that, you know, and so when you think about it, in trichology, we talk about how, you know, the fallacy of washing your hair once a week or twice a week. You know, my wife she's got the boatload of hair. And I'm like, hon, with these products, you need to wash your hair every day. What are you talking about? I can't wash my hair every day. You know, if you're working with a good product, that product is not going to cause damage to your hair. Do you wash your face only once every 3 days? We've heard our skin and our face, or our face and our head, it's the same skin. So why would you only wash your scalp twice a week? So now all of a sudden you have a buildup, and that buildup can cause too much oil at the base. Too much oil on the follicular, the funnel, can cause the hair, because your scalp has to have a little bit of tension to it, so it kind of can close up, not tight, but on that hair follicle. If it opens up a little bit too much, that hair is going to be moving around too much, and that oil can potentially cause that hair to release prematurely. And then there's hair that can be blocked because if there's too much oil, there can actually be scales on the scalp that are actually locking onto hair. And if that hair can't release when it's supposed to, the hair that's supposed to grow under it, because when that first hair dies, there's a bulb underneath it that starts to grow. And if that hair doesn't have the room to grow and expand properly, then you know you're going to have a finer hair. And if that one locks in, now you see what's happening? So then all of a sudden, if they do a deep cleansing or a clarifying shampoo all of a sudden, and then they're noticing, oh my God, I had all this hair loss. Oh yeah. But it's not because naturally, you should have had that hair leaving naturally over a regulated amount of time. Yes? Possibly, if there's that kind of curl in the hair. Well, that's the thing. With African American hair, what I believe one of the primary reasons for the turn, what's that? Get out of here. No way, I'm supposed to start at 11. So I'm, you know, so you see, I'm way ahead of schedule. Yeah, see? Yeah. Great. Now I got to talk faster. Yeah, Karen. Sure. Starting from the baseline the baseline conversation on the phone, it's kind of a, hey, you know, when do you want to come in? How do you want it? What, where, when, why? I get them into the salon. I have a privacy room that we walk into, we sit down, and we talk about their treatment schedule, when it's going to start, let them know what their process is going to be. So what is the duration of time that they're going to be going through when it comes to their hair loss, and what's going to happen with the regrowth process, what's going to happen and how you can file for insurance, what you need to get from your doctor as far as a prescription, how you want to file that, the paperwork that I have to give them when it comes to their invoicing to make sure that the invoice says exactly on it what the doctor says on it. It states on there what I've given them, the cranial prosthesis, what the procedure, write this down, they need a procedure and diagnostic code from their doctor on a prescription for a cranial prosthesis. And that does not necessarily mean diddly, because the insurance company will decide at that point whether or not they're going to get reimbursement. And at that point, what you tell them is if you do not get reimbursement from your doctor, or the insurance company tells you you're not going to get any reimbursement, you still need to file those papers. Because then, the procedure and diagnostic code is what they're going to need on their prescription. Because when you send that in with all the correct paperwork, if they still have it denied, then the best thing is that you can have them take that off on their taxes, because then it's an unpaid medical expense. Now that's also going to vary on what their percentage of their deductible is and this and that. So these are things that I go through. And then I talk to them about what it is they can expect from me. It's like when you come in, you will get a haircut from me, and how we'll take your hair down. And how we will take your hair down is by taking it down in stages. All at one time, all in one section. Yeah, what I do is basically if somebody has your length of hair, your length of hair, your length of hair, I would start off by taking off 4 inches of hair to start out and say, this is where your hair should be in about 2 years. I'll take 4 more inches off and say, this is where your hair should be probably about 1.5 years. And so I start working backwards, giving them different looks, different styles, so that they can wrap around their head what their process of regrowth is going to be like. When they come into me, when their hair is starting to release, is when I do all of those haircuts all at one time. So it's not like they're leaving and coming back and leaving and coming back. During that one, they're all in one time. That's why when I say my delivery process can be up to 3 hours for a wig, because I'm giving them 4 haircuts generally, and then shaving their head if that's what they choose. And then I put the wig on. I've got to set that, I've got to prep that, and I've got to cut that. So that may take 2 or 3 haircuts right then and there. So I'm technically going to give them potentially 7 haircuts during that 3-hour period. No, they can't be fitted because they have their hair. So you're not going to be able to technically fit. You're not going to be able to technically fit it until their hair is gone. Then at that point, then you're going to see how the cap seats. You're going to see where it comes down. You're going to see what you need to either take out, what you need to adjust. Does it need to be tightened? Does it need to be, you got to cut the lace off if they're going to lace front product. Do they want to cut a bang into it? They want to put fringe into it. How they want it to move forward? Do they want to move back? How to describe to them on what the product will do for them and how it will work for them. You can have a hairpiece. I mean, when they come in to order a hairpiece, if I don't have it in stock with color and unlike, what I do is I can order it, I can have it in 3 days. And again, by using a company like HairVisions. HairVisions has a warehouse filled, and if I call them up and say, Lourdes, I need this tomorrow, they can overnight it. So that's the kind of stuff where, and that's what that's the kind of efficiency I need. There's other providers, oh, you know what, we don't have that color in, we don't have that style, we're not, like, okay. So, that's kind of how so those are the processes. Yes? You don't. You don't. That's why I don't that's why I don't pre-cut their wig. Because I tell them up front, it's like, listen, as long as I don't cut this, this is still my product. So if I haven't cut it, if I haven't styled it, if I've got to send it back, I don't care. But if you don't need it, I will still take a deposit from my client. I take a deposit to order the product. And I tell them the deposit is fully and completely refundable as long as I don't cut the product. As long as they don't say, you need to color it, you need to cut it, then it's theirs. But in the interim, it's still my product. So again, giving them the availability, and that gives them the, oh, okay. So if I don't lose because some women have that belief and the hope that they're not going to lose their hair. And I've only had to do that a couple of times in the last 10 years. Yeah, right, where I've had to refund them, No, no, there's no. You just kind of you know if it's because if you're getting breast cancer, it's pretty much going to go. You know, and all the other ones, the doctors are telling them that they're going to lose significant amount of hair. Right. We already went over that. I'll talk to you about it on the backside. Because I got to get through the rest of this really quick now. I can't. I want to finish this and just take me a couple of minutes. I've only got like a few more slides. The biggest problem we have right now with all of our clients is the lack of knowledge, because they don't have these things that we need to give them. They may be there for their first time. What they, you know, they're going off of what they've heard, what they've read on the web, what they've been. There's fear, there's shame, there's embarrassment. They don't believe that they've got options. They don't know what those options are because there's not people giving them, like us, the hairdressers, that we don't have this. So, you know, how do we incorporate this into the salon? I've kind of talked about that a little bit, but we need to change the I don't know narrative, because they believe that we don't know the information that's going to help them through this process. And if they don't believe that, then they're not going to come to us to look for it. So we need to make sure we change that narrative. You know, so because we have all the great options now. We have all the things that if you want to get into this business, here's how you have to do it. Here's what you're going to need to do. You're going to have more than just wigs and hairpieces. Again, how, or when, and how much, and when you get into it all, that's a whole other animal. But the good thing is they have the options. And inevitably, every salon, I truly believe, is going to have a hair loss specialist in their salon. They're not going to have a choice because it's part of our industry. It's what's going to basically be happening. Hair loss, you have no idea, overall, in general, needs to come out from out of the closet. You know, no pun intended. They're all hairdressers. We all come out of the closet, sorry. But no, this is one of those things that you need. We need to have people talking openly. We need to sit there and say, here's what we've got. Here's the options. Because let's face it, 25 years ago, people weren't talking about breast cancer. Okay, and now there's ribbons, there's bows, there's walks, there's runs, there's all this stuff. As soon as we can get rid of the stigma about hair loss and letting people know that if you have it, it's okay to walk around. It's okay to be free. It's okay to let people see what's going on and what's happening, because this is what's the most important, is to basically move forward with all this stuff. And this is our opportunity. If you don't even want to do this because of, you know, your heart and your soul and your love for what it is, do it for the damn revenue stream. Do it because the revenue stream is off the charts. You know, you can really make an amazing amount of money and do really well in this business if you do that. And the other thing we're going to be doing, if we get into this in a big way and the way you should, is you're elevating yourself in this profession. You're taking yourself to a new level. You're not just some hairdresser that's cutting and coloring. You're giving people, you know, a reality on what you can do and how you can help them and how you can move them forward. I had a client come into the salon. She's like, I want this and this and this. I says, I'm not going to be doing that. You're going to sit down. We're going to talk about what the problem is. We're going to talk about the issue. I'm going to tell you what the advantages and disadvantages are. And she goes, okay. Because she realized that I knew what I was talking about, that I knew I was going to give her the right information, that I was going to guide her the right way and what it's necessary to do to make sure that her hair's okay. So, you know, my mission, I want to basically try to help build a network of professionals. That's what we need to have. So that if I've got somebody in Gurnee, or I've got somebody in Indiana, or I got somebody that's just on the east side of where I'm at right now, that we're all doing this work and we for some reason can't get it done, or we can't do something, we know we can refer somebody, we can talk to people about it, we can get this stuff, and we can get this stuff done well. You know, have the variety of solutions. Make sure that I can try to help people get these solutions, try to get people to understand how these solutions work and what we can do, and we create our clients' best experience. And it's our responsibility. This is what we need to do. This is something that's part of our business. This is something that even if you don't get any part of this business whatsoever, other than just having information, it's our responsibility. We have to have a unified front. Hair loss is something that we need to basically be talked about. There's no single source of info. It's our time. And again, my belief is we need to just get the conversation started. If you're sitting there in your salon and you're talking about what's going on this past weekend, and you talk to your client and sit there and say, hey, you know what? I went to this conference about hair loss. She's going to say, really? wow, my sister, my mother, my aunt, my cousin, blah, blah, blah. The client sitting next to her is going to say, wait, what? So now the conversation gets started about what we can do and how we can do it. And so that's me. Like I said, I can talk about 3 hours.
Some more time. I